Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. We'll come to the approval of the agenda. And before we do that, I believe with some different things going on right now, I want to amend it and add on there that we'd like to have a COVID update because it's been a while since we had that one. So I'll just make that like a 2.1. Okay, with that, looking for approval of today's agenda, that addition.
Yep.
Yeah, we got to move to amend before I had the approval. Yeah, that's right, I need that. A move to amend the agenda first.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Okay, now we'll go look for approval of today's agenda.
I'll move to approve today's agenda.
Okay, Kim and Dennis, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Okay, so Mike, a COVID update.
Yeah, I don't have anything prepared for the board formally for this. I can tell you today was probably the roughest day we've had in the district since the school year started. We had 19 cases today. Our county numbers continue to be bouncing off the charts. We are fourth highest county in the state of Minnesota right now. The biggest concerning factor I have today to share with you is we had a significant number of staff out today. We had a 44% fill rate with subs, meaning 44% of the positions were filled with substitute teachers. We were able to get other teachers to give up their preps. We had still only a 71% fill rate. So it is we're in a tough situation. I've talked to two different elementary schools staff. I met with one last week. I met with another this morning. Feedback I'm getting from staff is, yep, not as many little kids are getting it, but I gave you one example from a teacher I spoke with this morning. She said, I have one student masked in my class, and I'm masked, and I'm vaccinated, but I'm sure I'm going to get it from one of these other 20-some kids in the class. And so we are at a tough situation. We have currently, the website says 83. We're at 85 cases in the district, current since the start of the school year. It took us the entire first semester to reach 85 last year. So, we're masked at the high school, and we're masked at Southwest, and that's slowed down the quarantining. We're not seeing a huge uptick in elementary students positive. Most of the elementary students who are positive are getting it somewhere else. They're not necessarily getting it at school. But I have staff who are basically asking to mandate at the elementary level. If you're doing it at the secondary, help protect us as staff members. So, Ashley, why don't you go ahead and pop up, we used that slide I used in my meeting this morning to give the board a little bit of perspective on where we're at as a county. This is a tool that the University of Minnesota has created. Try safe learning model, or is that, I don't think that's it. So, anyhow, what I want to show you, and she's looking for it here, is I'm going to show you where we were in July when summer school ended. I'll show you in July when I made the initial recommendation that we recommend mask for the school year. Show you where we're at on the first day of school, and show you where we're at now. And you'll get to see a significant change within the numbers. And these are county numbers for Freeborn County. Okay, so this number here, 403, is 403 cases per 100,000 people. Okay, this is data as of yesterday. Okay, scroll up a little bit, actually. So you can see back in July, this is like July 2nd, right when summer school was ending, we were at 13. All right, and we move forward here to August 16th, 17th time frame, we were about 180, somewhere around there. Okay. This is where we were yesterday. It was 525, I believe. It has now dropped. I don't think that, and there was no data released yesterday, so it dropped down. It wasn't released till this morning. We're currently at 404. This is the projection of where they think it's going to be within the next week. But you can see the trajectory here, pretty significant. They say anything in red is high transmission. All right, and so you can see when school started, it just went up. So scroll down.
Is there a cause and effect relationship, do you think, between school starting
Yeah, I
and
think
rates
so.
going
I
up,
think
or wouldn't
so.
they gone up anyway? We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So here's where Freeborn County is. So all the counties to the left of the dark red there and black have lower rates than us. The counties to the right include Dodge, Steele, which is Dodge is Casson, Steele is Owatonna, and Pennington, I have no idea where that is. They're off the charts.
Okay, Olmsted.
Olmsted is up there.
Oh, are they?
Yep. Yeah, there they are. 205. And then just show them state of Minnesota, Ashley, just for the boards. That's where we are as a state. The other thing that is a factor is this RSV virus that's out there. We're starting to see a number of students positive for that as well.
What's that one?
RSV, it's called.
Is that in the-
It's a respiratory virus of some sort.
Those are usually in the younger kids, though.
Yes, they are. Yep. So I think the biggest concerns I've got moving forward here is staffing. We are not going to be able to maintain this sort of vacancy rate with our staff without burning everybody in the district out. And then, of course, our county numbers, the spread is impacting the school district. And then today, again, I mean, for every positive case that there is a considerable amount of work that in chasing that down and going through everything. And so I thought last year was rough. This is exponentially harder on our staff to start a school this year. Our support staff, at least, who were.
So there were 19 new cases today?
Yes, from the weekend.
How does the level of sickness compare to last year? Are people getting sicker, or is it about the same? Can you tell?
I don't know.
So when you say we have a 71% fill rate, so those other 29%, are they putting classes together, so then we're putting more students, where a teacher will split, that kind of thing? Or, I don't know, I'm just asking.
The high school gets absorbed
Okay.
into other classes.
Potentially making class sizes bigger?
So we're pulling some other people during their prep time who, you know, like, for instance, Burke, you know, he's a tech coach and he can, instead of doing that, during his prep, he does.
Absorption is some of it.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, that
We had
now
deans,
we're,
counselors, specialists were all in classrooms today
Okay.
for a recent hour.
my concern was more on the class size. Now we're bringing on another bear of,
That's our last resort to, you know, split a class between the other two sections. And I'm not sure if we've done that in the elementaries yet. Not yet. We've been able to use interventionists or, you know.
But even mask in the high school. Chris, what did you think? You told me earlier today, what were your thoughts on how many kids we would have quarantined if we weren't masked last week?
We sent letters to 381 on Thursday saying you may have to quarantine based on late results we got Thursday. So usually that's full classes of 30, so you take about 20% of that get quarantined. So we're looking at 60, 70 kids without masks that we would have quarantined last week.
But they're masked, so we didn't.
Those that were appropriately masked,
Right.
we're still fighting that a little bit as well. A lot of noses out there.
And so if there was a 71% fill rate and 44% were subs, does that mean 27 were regular
Other
teaching?
teachers or counselors or deans covering for those positions.
So then you're saying that 29% of the classrooms were functioning in a normal manner. 71 means they were being filled in some other way.
Yes.
Wow.
How long are those teachers out?
Some are getting tested. Some might be a day, some might be 2 days, some may be positive. And when I give you these numbers, these are staff and students, the positives. And we're seeing positive staff members who have children become positive, and then it impacts the classroom where they're at.
You know, some of those would be with several paraeducator positions we did not fill today. We couldn't fill.
So when a teacher has tested positive and has to be at home, if they're feeling well enough, are they able to do remote work?
Yeah, we will, if they're feeling well enough, they can prepare for their classes. And so we will give them time to do that, and it won't be considered sick leave. But it depends on how they're feeling. So folks, I mean, basically, as I said to the staff at the start of the school year, all right, we were going to try to start the school year as minimally disruptive as possible with our COVID procedures, and we are seeing significant disruption because of the high caseload and counts that we have within the district.
I don't suppose there's any way of knowing the correlation between staff who are testing positive and staff who have been vaccinated.
We have had some staff who have been vaccinated fully test positive, but I wouldn't say not a significant level, but there's been some staff who have.
So again, that's a subjective judgment, but are those staff who have been vaccinated, who have tested positive, experiencing diminished effects of COVID, or
I don't know, yeah.
The pressure on the district is gonna become trying to keep the kids in school. At what point then are they gonna end up having to go distant learning? But if we wanna keep them in school, and we wanna look at even talking about masking, we're gonna get beat up so bad on one end, and we're getting beat up on the other end, because there's a lot of people out there that think we need to mask, and it's just it's a juggling act right now, and how do we best move the kids forward? I do not envy your spot at all right now, or
Thanks, Dennis.
any of us. I mean, it's a challenge, but it's a question is how do we wade through this?
It seems worse than that, because the alternative where students are learning from a distance, the data has suggested that doesn't not very effective either.
But that's the problem is how do you figure where to maneuver? We're kind of between a rock and a hard place.
Scroll up. Okay, so here's a thought on that. Okay, so the board passed a resolution basically saying, okay, we're going to start the school year recommended. We can adjust out of it if we need to. Here's a thought. We pick a number here. Can you highlight like August 2nd there, Ashley? Okay, we were at 109. Okay, so if you can see here, yellow and red is about right around there is where we're at 100. And they're saying at 100 you're at moderate transmission. High transmission, I think you're into the probably it's a little bit higher, probably 150 or above. Okay, so different numbers this year, but what they're saying over here is this. Last year when we started school, they said 30 or less you could be in school. Okay, so if you take 150, divide it by 5, you get to last year's data, which is 30 or less. Okay, I think that's a little low. I think you could go probably as high as maybe 200, which would be 40 or less. Right now we're 80. Yesterday we were 100. So if it were 40 or less, you could put something in place saying 40 or less, the administration can determine by building or by or 200 or less using this year's data, 40 or less using last year's data. The administration could determine by building or by classroom, kind of like we're operating right now, whether to mask. If you're over that 200 number, and I'm just throwing that out, I haven't thought through this completely yet, then the district masks. And it becomes an objective number that, okay, people know, and you got to have it for a week or 5 days or something like that, so you're not playing, it's 205 one day, the next day it's 195, and so it's got to be consistently below or consistently above that number. That way you have got, it's not a feel thing, it's not a total reaction to what's on the ground. It's more statistically objective. And really what we would have to do is take a harder look at this information and come back to you with it and give you a recommendation. And then we could ask you to vote on approving that in a resolution that this is the criteria we're going to use moving forward. That way you have some specificity to it and people can understand that. The other thing is, I don't know if the community, I don't know what the community's thought is so far on our numbers being this high, whether it's impactful or not, you know, when the community spread, or it's just the way it is. So anyhow, that's just something you could consider. And I'm not asking for that tonight, but it's just something to, I think we could take a look at it at the September 20th meeting.
You asked me what you think the community is thinking, and I think half of them are thinking one way, and half are thinking the other way. So, but I think we are here to, I go back to the mission of our school, and that's a safe environment for our students. And I feel like this is a good solution to that. And plus, it gives us a couple weeks. If we come back and do a resolution, gives us that couple weeks to kind of monitor when you say, you know, we don't go back and forth with masking.
Can you describe the difference in the quarantining with masking and unmasking?
Yeah, this is part of one of the frustrations that I have as superintendent, because the rules are constantly changing. So a year ago, if you were in a classroom and you were masked and somebody else was masked, and you were within 6 feet of somebody who was positive, you were quarantined. This year, we've decided to change the rules. The state has. And the rule is, if you were in a classroom and you're both masked and you're within 6 feet for 15 minutes, if you're both masked, nobody's quarantined, except the positive student is, of course. So the state has shifted their guidance on that. And I don't know what they have as far as logic or why or what, but I think to probably keep kids in school. So that's the difference between this year and last year on the quarantining piece. What we're doing at the elementary level is we've taken that a step further. So we started the year, student tested positive in the elementary. We sent the whole class home for the quarantine period. Since we shifted to this mask everybody at the high school, we said, okay, if a student tests positive in a classroom, we'll send the kids home for a day, we'll clean the classroom, and then we'll bring them back, offer them the opportunity to come back masked, and so that they could be in school, in sight together, and they'd be masked for the duration of the quarantine, which is, 14 days total. That's been pretty effective, but I think the difference that I'm feeling right now is staff is feeling exposed with masking only part of the district.
So, from what you can tell so far, this change in the quarantine process, so that now if the school is masked and one student is positive, the rest don't need to quarantine, are we finding that effective, or does there seem to be contamination among other close ones, and maybe that's why the numbers are rising? Do we know?
Chris or Kathy?
I think we have one elementary classroom that had 4. But I think it's almost too soon to tell, because we just started this last week.
But at the secondary level, yeah, I don't think we've been able to identify anything. We had one classroom at the elementary. We had 4 come out of it early, like first week of school. But that's been it at the elementary. So that's, I know masks aren't perfect, but I think they are helping to some degree at the secondary level where we're utilizing them at this point.
Hasn't the change in the quarantine has probably helped a little bit with family members this year, hasn't it, compared to last year? Because last year, if one in the family contracted it, then the whole family was home, and then once the first one that contracted went back and they're negative, then the others might have to stay longer at home. And this year it's different now. Is that correct, kind of too, or?
It depends if you're close contact to a close contact. So that's yes. The other thing we're doing, and again, this is to save burning out on the staff. So first 290, 300 that you read about in the news, they were individually, because they were considered close contacts because they were not masked, they were called by members of our school team. Okay, so we made positive contact with every single family. And so, in a week's time, you had hundreds and hundreds of late-night phone calls that, it can always get through. So what we do now is if there is a close contact, our deans or our admin support will look at the seating charts within the classes. They'll do a 6 feet circle around it, and then they'll identify the close contacts. We will then send them letters home. We don't call them, we just say your student or son or daughter was identified as a close contact. Please contact us if you would like, to discuss this further. And then where we do trace is the lunchroom, where kids could still be exposed. But we have QR codes on every lunch table that we ask the kids to scan their phones so that we have an idea who's sitting there, which is pretty effective too.
The close contact becomes so challenging though, because we have no idea where kids are on a long weekend with the holiday, what they're doing in the evening, where they're going. So
Yeah.
not necessarily are they contacting it from
Right.
in the room.
What we try to identify is close contacts at school.
And has there been any activity in the sports area?
We had one activity team, and they're not in season. Our dance team has a fall performance, but it's not their official season. And they had somehow they didn't get the word that masks were required. It was their coach was not a member of the district, and so we had some kids exposed there. That's the only one that I'm aware of from a sports angle.
Do you know what the hospital bed situation is right now? And then I was also wondering, with the staff who say they're feeling exposed, is this like a sense among, because I know most of our staff are vaccinated, is there a sense or concern that the vaccine's effectiveness are waning and people are concerned about that, or I wonder what you might think?
I think that is a concern, the waning of the vaccine perhaps. I don't know locally where we're at hospital bed wise. I know they're getting more full, and I think they're getting to the point where they're starting to push back the elective procedures to provide more beds for potential COVID cases. In a lot of areas, they're talking about children's hospitals filling up. I haven't seen a lot of children cases in our district that are hospitalized. We just haven't yet. And again, we have not seen a huge number uptick, though we did have, I think, 5 of our cases today were elementary classrooms, or elementary students that impacted classrooms within our elementary as of yet.
Go ahead, Neil.
Oh, I almost hesitate to ask, but relevant to hospital beds, do we have any hospital beds in Albert Lea?
Yeah.
We
they're
have
fewer.
day observation beds, or one night, I believe, but no COVID beds.
Okay, no other comments or thoughts? That sounds like a challenging few days ahead. I mean, some objectivity, I think, would be good for all concerned, including families, that we could look at, numbers and something to work with, but,
Well, let me just ask you this, okay? I mean, as a board, where do you, I'm not asking for a vote, but what are your thoughts on, all right, I have staff asking to put a mask mandate on the district. Just curious, between now and September 20th, what are your thoughts on that? And again, I don't think a staff, I am split on this myself, and I got pushed back really hard from a kindergarten teacher this morning, who I said, I'm trying to minimize disruption in the classroom. I want our little kids to be able to learn how to read and talk without a mask on their face. And she pushed me hard. She said, I taught last year in a COVID environment all year round, and my kindergarten students had no problems whatsoever. So it's not disruptive. So that was from a kindergarten perspective.
Yeah, I think you're very familiar with my position on masks, and I'm not afraid to make it public. I would not be opposed to any kind of a mask mandate, imposed on our staff or on our students. It is probably the second best mitigating practice. And well, there are exceptions. Certainly, there are some people for whom masks would be a severe imposition, but that's rare, and we could deal with that.
I'm curious to know, at the rate things are accelerating now, I don't know that we'll still be here wanting to answer this question in two more weeks. What is what's the critical point of fill rate?
Yeah, as far as teacher, I can tell you the critical point on absence rate amongst our students is probably, it's 5%. I think we went through some of those numbers with you. I think the high school has approached 30 at some point as far as active cases. I think their threshold is 70, so I don't think we're there yet. But I do hear what you're saying. I think that's probably the biggest concern right now is our staffing.
We've been trying to find something objective too, like you said, where is that point? It's just, is it 120, 150 divided by 5, 30, 40, 200? I mean, it's hard. I mean, as we've talked about before, I mean, we're charged here for the safe and healthy environment for our kids, but also the best learning environment. And I think we all agree that that is face-to-face. But we've got to have people that can teach them face-to-face. And we've also got to be able to have the kids that feel safe, and staff and everyone else, not just teachers too. So I echo what Dennis says. Congratulations there, Dr. Funk.
I really think, it's a critical point, and if it's masked up or send them all home, I think the in-person masked up is better if we can utilize the fall, and if we can get the kids outside at all and break it up. People are gonna be irate if they have to wear masks, so be it, but we gotta keep these kids learning. We don't wanna look back at the end of the year and say, well, we had distant learning again and we didn't accomplish anything, the kids are another year behind. We're all gonna look bad again, so it's basically a lesser of two evils, and if the mask can protect and keep the kids in school, and there's gonna be extenuating circumstances where some kids can't wear a mask, but if we can work with that, or can we find clear masks so you can see the expressions, I think there's some ways to work with, but the goal's gotta be to keep these kids in school.
Face-to-face. Face-to-face in school, yep.
I would agree. For me, it's three things. It's number one, how the staff that are in front of our children every day, how are they feeling? And it sounds like this is an anxious time for them. And so I feel like if putting masks on the students when they're masked, it gives them the ability to do the work they're doing. I think it's crucial. And I agree, face-to-face or in the classroom is where we want our students. So if it's a mask mandate that does that, I'm in favor of that. But I continue to go back to what we were all charged to be at this table for, and that's to keep our students safe. And I know it's hard. I know I've heard from people that do not want us putting masks on anybody, but or mandate anything because it's their right. But think about this. We have policies in place at the high school and at Southwest and even our elementary schools where students can't have their hood up, students can't have a hat on, their shorts need to be a certain length, their shirts have to be a certain way. And they just do that because that's the policy of the school. So I see this not being any different if it's the policy of the school.
We've got that many substitute teachers in the district. We're not doing our kids any favor by having that many substitutes. I'd be in favor of a mask mandate to protect our children and the staff. So we can keep the staff in school so we don't have to go to that distant learning.
Yep, Neil?
I just came back from a vacation in Baltimore, essentially, and visited at least 3 airports and was on aircraft with 250 people, and everybody had masks on. Everybody at the airport, everybody on the planes. It was no problem. Not a bit of a problem.
And to me, I don't believe that masks are the end-all answer to everything, but I believe that it is a preferable option than having to go distance learning. So, we can watch the numbers climb and or go down and what the staff numbers do. And if we're here in 2 more weeks, we can talk more about it. But I'm just wondering again, what would be the interim if something did happen where there weren't enough fillage for the classroom? What will happen between now and then?
Worst case, we'd shut a building for the day. I mean, that's the absolute worst case scenario.
Shut a building for a day?
A day or 2, depending on where we're at with the staffing of it. I mean, if we're not able to fill.
But you're saying if we hit a certain level at an elementary school, let's say that 40 number, you would mask them for a week, and then you wouldn't have to mask? They would be unmasked then?
So if we hit it, you're talking about the numbers up here. So basically what we would do is we talk to the experts, what's a fair number that we can look at for criteria, whether it's using last year's numbers, 40. And if we stay under that 40 number for a week as a district, there is no mask mandate. If it goes over that 40 number for a week and it stays over that 40 number, the mask mandate goes on. But that way, we have objective data that we're looking at. And then if we have an individual case in a building where, okay, we have a kid test positive and his close contacts are and there's no mask on, his close contacts are his classmates in an elementary building, we could then go to the procedure we have now, which would be to mask his classmates for the 14-day quarantine. But it would be just isolated to that room. So that's kind of the what I'm thinking in my head at this point as a potential resolution moving forward. The concern I've got is between now and September 20th when we meet again. Okay, what do we do? And I can certainly, we could move forward with some sort of mandate, and then the board in September can make a determination on, okay, yep, is this okay? Do we want to get away from this? And then approve whatever that resolution looks like. But folks, we got to do something. I mean, we have to do something. This is just before it goes off, off the deep end here.
Does it change the dynamics at the middle school and high school by coming up with a plan like that? Right now, I think we're going to the end of
End of the quarter.
Does that appease some of the families if we're looking for the safety of the kids and gives us a little more flexibility?
Yeah, the reason we went with the end of the first quarter is the so-called experts out there, and you can see even looking at the projected data there, the purple diamonds, that's what they're projecting, where our numbers may end up in the next week. So they are projecting at this point, we might start to see a decline. And what I'm hearing is early October is when that'll be. But again, that's just, where's this other model that I'm suggesting? If we have a number that we adhere to as a district, then everybody knows. It's not so much, okay, what are they going to do?
And it almost seems to me that it's easier just to go district-wide than to break it out by classroom or school. That way, there's just so much interaction between families, family
Yep.
members, and things can be transmitted before they are noticed. And it just seems seems that it would be more acceptable even if everyone is doing it and not just a few have to do it.
I totally agree with that. It's far less confusing and I would assume far more effective. Just make a blanket policy. If you are going to engage in face-to-face instruction, you will wear a mask. Everybody. That's just my opinion. I'm one board member, but for what it's worth, that's my opinion on the matter.
Yes, in this environment with the numbers as high as they are, absolutely. You know, I think, call me wishful thinking, but when we started the school year, was hopeful that it would start similar to the last school year, and it didn't. I mean, it's just, as you can see on the chart there, it just took off. And so until we get back to some sort of normalcy within the county with our numbers, I think that's probably the way to go.
Angie?
Just wanted to say, I would have no issue voting on something like this at our next meeting, but as others have said, the tricky part's gonna be what happens in the meantime. So hopefully that does go down.
Sounds like you'll have some kind of resolution that we can look at before and, okay. All right, thank you very much for the discussion. Didn't know it was that bad today.
What's
Hope
that?
it's better, hope it's better tomorrow.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay, no other action items, no study session tonight, so number 5 is our closed session, MS 13D.05, subdivision 3, board to evaluate the performance of an individual who is subject to its authority. I need a motion to go into closed session.
We got 20 for today, not 19, sorry.
Okay,
I'll move to go into closed session.
okay. Kim, vote. Any seconds? Angie seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose the same.